Did
We're
we
back.
miss something last week?
What?
Well, so you put a note in our show notes that we may have forgotten to talk about a certain EV.
Did we?
Did we
Oh,
sleep on the
yes.
new Leaf?
Yes. Did we?
Did we? I don't know the answer to that because I've been sleeping on everything. I'm
Who's
Phil
we?
Royle. I am one of the co-hosts here on the What Car podcast. I've been 20 years, 5 years, somewhere between 5 and 25 years experience in the
I
automotive.
thought you were the youthful one.
I'm the youthful one. I'm
wise
brand
and
new.
old sage.
6 months into the industry and doing automotive and content and creation in some form or fashion. And I also tell people to go to the I'm really bad at URLs. This internet thing, it's so new.
YouTube.com/@the-what-car.
At the What Car, that's correct. You can watch our smiling faces there instead of just listening to it. But, we're good for your ears as well. So I'm all
and
for...
if you have ADD, we have a wonderful selection of shorts to watch.
We
now.
do. Those are all on the YouTubes. I don't think we post
Yes.
any of those as reels or anything anywhere else, do we?
I don't know. Maybe we should.
Maybe that's our next step. I don't know. Baby steps. Like I said, this internet thing is new. Maybe it'll catch on. We're just kind of...
Maybe we should invite Katie Couric on to...
We're biding our time.
Ed Sanchez, I'm the wise and old veteran of the duo, supposedly.
I would say you've got more gray hair than me, but mine really just hides well.
Yeah, but you have more where it matters. So anyway, yes, 4+ years into podcasting, living in the moment, enjoying things, and wearing goofy T-shirts, which we could discuss. You can
Back
see
too
it
far.
Back Too Far. Little play on Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies.
So
Anyway,
that vehicle, and I forget the whole story behind it, was apparently electric, supposedly. The DeLorean in the movie. Yeah.
in the movie,
the
yes.
movie was supposed to be electric.
Yeah.
And
But
I
they
can't
overdub
remember.
like a V8 soundtrack.
Well, and he's shifting, which is possible. But he gets to the cranking part where it all falls apart. But there was something in the movie, and I don't remember what it was. Make a comment in the YouTubes and tell me, because I'm too lazy to look it up again. But I seem to recall it supposedly was the DeLorean in the Back to the Future movie was supposed to be electric. All right.
That's a whole other episode.
Slept on another electric vehicle, the Leaf. Tell me about this, because I know the Leaf exists. I know that we talked briefly about it an episode or two ago because I asked about its charging, what it uses, because I assumed that it was still on Shadow.
So we one of our past episodes, we discussed the hypothetical ideal EV, and I think we decided 30,000-ish, 300 miles range. We gave some other parameters in terms of charging time, cargo capacity, all that.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of came up with a, quote, perfect EV.
Yes.
And we decided the Model Y Standard was not it. The new Bolt was not it.
Yeah, the
But
Model Y Standard was too expensive, but had all the right features.
Good specs, yeah.
Maybe too good for a cheap car.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bolt had the right
good,
price, but
yeah.
the features weren't good enough. The range wasn't good enough. The charging wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So is the answer Leaf?
Well, maybe. Well, so here's the thing. So the new Leaf, so the longest range model, which happens to be the base model, because I guess it's the lightest and has the least, power sucking bells and whistles, has a 303 mile range rating.
Nice.
And a $2,990 starting price. However, that model, I looked at the specs, it's pretty, compared to cars like 10 years ago, it's pretty well equipped, but by today's standards, it's a little strippo. So I'm kind of like, it's almost there. But I think some of the stuff they offer in the higher trim models in terms of equipment should be standard, I think. And if they could offer it for that price with that equipment, with that range, that would be pretty close to perfect. But so case could be made. The new Leaf in the base trim is the ideal EV sweet spot. but
it's the closest thing we've got right now.
Closest so far.
Yeah.
Anyway.
See, I would argue, because I'm cheapo, Phil, that a used EV is the best deal right now. And that I would buy a used Tesla or Mach-E and get something with good range, low miles, affordable price, fast charging. Although the problem then comes, you buy something used like a used Mach-E and you don't get NACS. That's the new problem now. So now I've got to wait another few years. Right now, I guess it's only Tesla that you buy used. Or you've got a dongle. You know, dongles for all.
Well, I mean, but see, that's kind of the thing that's, even with the new NACS native models, they're not all the same. Even though, you know, externally they look the same, there's still varying implementations of NACS in that some have what's called plug-in charge, where you literally, is what it says it is. You just plug it in, boom, seamless. Just basically like the Tesla experience, but for everybody. Other ones, you have to download the Tesla app. You have to initiate the charge through the smartphone app. And then others, and another thing I found out too is, I guess, the little mobile chargers like I have, those will not work in non-Teslas or a lot of non-Teslas for level 2. So even though, you know, they say, oh yeah, NACS is a new standard, the implementation is not uniform.
The problem's software based though, isn't it? I mean, the hardware is done.
Predominantly software, I would say. There may be a little bit of a hardware component. You know, like, so case in point, when I upgraded, so remember I did that upgrade, I think about a year ago, where I could use third-party NACS chargers, because they changed the protocol to a kind of, not exactly proprietary-ish, but kind of a rare protocol to the CCS protocol. Even though it's the next port, it uses the CCS protocol. And so that was kind of a software and hardware thing, but it's basically like a little microchip. Anyway. Yeah. So TLDR, not all NACS are created equal. Anyway, moving on.
I haven't mentioned this in a while, but we're in like the early stages of this, and it is such a mess. EVs are such a mess when it comes to charging infrastructure. They work great, sure, it works great, but once you start getting into the details, you're like, oh my god, seriously? Like, this should have been a V1 problem that we had 15 years ago that has long been solved.
Well, yeah, and plus newcomers, you know, coming from gas cars to this, it's just, I can see how it can get infuriating. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. They're like, forget it.
Yeah. All right.
So, at various points, I've made a defense for PHEVs and EREVs, extended range extended EVs, where they do work in some use cases. They add extra measure of utility, practicality. I'd say specifically with like larger pickups, large SUVs, for applications where you tow. So I think there's a rational case to be made for that. However, some European researchers gave them a resounding thumbs down in a recent report. So do we want to dig into this?
Yeah, define to me. Pretend like I'm an idiot, because I'm an idiot. Is there a difference between... 5? Yes, explain it to me like I'm 5. PHEV, EREV. Is there actually a difference, or are these synonyms, and then companies are defining them differently? Because generally speaking, these are vehicles that have a battery, an electric motor, and a gasoline engine. Now, I think of PHEVs, a plug-in hybrid, as something where the gasoline power engine powers the tires, and an EREV as something where the gasoline engine is a generator that powers the battery, and the battery uses the motor to propel the vehicle.
That's essentially right.
And with PHEVs, the electric motor can just power the vehicle, but the main the main use of its propulsion is gasoline directly driving the tires. Is that the definition we're using? Is that the definition everybody uses?
Yeah, effectively, the difference between PHEVs and EREVs is in an EREV, the gasoline engine is acting almost exclusively as a generator, whereas PHEV, it's like a quote regular hybrid, except the electric motor is more powerful to the point where the electric motor alone can provide more of the propulsion. They typically have a larger battery. So yes, your definition, I would say, is generally correct.
Okay. All right. Carry on. I want to make sure that I'm understanding.
Yeah. Anyway, so this report in particular, specifically, it seems like focused on PHEVs. So they, I guess they, I don't know how they track this. If they put, I guess they somehow tapped into the telematics data of how often these vehicles were charged, which is something OEMs have been very, very guarded about. And they've gotten a lot of questions about, but they haven't wanted to share. But somehow they were able, presumably, to get this information. They found that they're fairly infrequently charged. So most of the time...
Shock.
So most of the time they just operate as, quote, regular hybrids, but with the added disadvantage of heavier batteries. So basically, driving a PHEV that doesn't have a full battery, they're less efficient than non-plug-in hybrids.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they're carting around more weight, they're burning more fuel.
But they get you like a tax credit or some kind of rebate, and they get you carpool stickers.
Well, they did, not anymore.
Yeah,
but.
yeah. But that was one of the big things about them.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were buying them and then never charging them because now they could drive in the carpool lane.
In fact, I remember going to a party at your place. I'm not going to name name. In fact, I can't even remember his name, but
you couldn't name names if you wanted to.
One of the friends at your party who at the time got a Ford Fusion Energy openly admitted, I never plug it in. I just got it for the carpool sticker.
Yep. It's the American way.
So,
or at least California way.
I could get that living in Los Angeles, but it's like, to me, I would say, if you get a PHEV and don't plug it in, you're stupid. you're kind of missing the point. But anyway,
so I'll mark down the time is about 12 minutes into the podcast. That's going to be one of the shorts right there.
There you go.
That you make.
Well, no, really. I mean, you're missing out on the main advantage to it, other than carpool access or some kind of tax break.
The main advantage was carpool.
Well, true. Yeah,
that buys
I get
you
the
time. You can't buy time, and that was what that was buying. Okay, yeah. So what's the deal? So
they discovered through crook and hook, however they got this information, the real world CO2 emissions of PHEV models registered in 2023 are nearly 5 times the official rated emissions, and it noted this gap is widening. So, and it says right here, based on official data transmitted from onboard fuel consumption meters. So, yeah, it's basically through telematics data. Somehow they were able to get hold of this information. And it said the gap is mostly caused by flawed assumptions on the share of electric driving mode, which they call the utility factor, whatever that means, which leads to a drastic underestimate of official PHEV emissions. The UF utility factor overestimated the electric driving share, assuming 84% between 2021 and 2023, whereas real world data shows this just to be 27%.
I don't want to drop a bad word here, but is this PHEVgate?
It's honestly, other than we talk about this a lot, EV nerds. I think other than EV nerds, nobody's going to care about this. But it's just basically a validation of some people's premise that PHEVs are not plugged in as often as they should. And to your point, a lot of people at the time just bought them for the carpool sticker or tax break or whatever, and otherwise didn't care about it. Didn't bother to plug them in. Just wanted the goodies. So, but I still think they make sense for some people, and if used in the way they were intended, can save you a lot of money on fuel. But it does require plugging them in, operating them predominantly on electricity for short trips, and using the gas motor for longer trips.
I can
That's the way they were
see
designed.
EREVs
So,
being also incorrectly reported of their emissions, but not as much as like a PHEV, because I can see where in an EREV, if you drive it like you stole it, and you were always foot to the floor, you're lead foot, then it's always going to be kicking on the electric or the gasoline engine and revving it more to charge the battery. So if you drive it not really like a grandma, but more sedately, how you should be driving, that's probably how the emissions are calculated. But then, I mean, a lot of people are just like foot to the floor, and that engine's going to click on, and it's going to rev up high to generate the electricity to regenerate the power for the battery. So I can see that also being miscalculated, but to a lesser degree.
well, the other thing with EREVs generally is they generally have larger batteries than PHEVs. So you will, I mean, even though they're still, the propulsion is electric, they'll still be operating on battery power more of the time than a PHEV.
I had a friend who's now got, I don't know, he's on like his third or fourth Tesla, whatever it is. And what got him into EVs was the Volt, which was an EREV.
Yeah, right. The kind of the OG EREV, really.
Yeah. And maybe make a comment in the YouTubes if I'm wrong about this, but I recall him saying that one of the problems with that was when he came to the hills, because there are a lot of hills in Southern California, that if you hadn't set it for, I'm going to be going over this hill, you could actually run out of juice going up the hill. It couldn't generate enough power from when you depleted the battery going up an extended hill trying to do 75 miles an hour. It couldn't get up the hill. So you'd actually have to, there was like a setting, there was something where you could tell it, okay, click that engine on. Start getting some juice banked here, because we're about to go up a huge incline of like, a 6 or 9% grade for the next 20 miles, whatever it is. I need to get to the top. So there's also problems with, I don't know, there's problems with all of it.
Yeah.
I think this is why gasoline is the future, you guys. This is
and always will be.
And always will.
We're going to live like in a Mad Max future. Is that the future of the world? Anyway. So speaking of EREVs.
Yeah.
So this is one that was announced.
Not dead yet.
We're not dead yet. This is one we've discussed, and I think we're both kind of fans of. We kind of like the concept. But this is kind of going in maybe a little bit different direction than the company originally intended, or not. I don't know. But so the Scout SUV, which going in the Wayback Machine, was part of the VW Group's acquisition of Navistar, or International. And if you remember way back in the day, back when we were still crapping our diapers, International actually made like smaller trucks, not just big rigs, but pickups, SUVs, so forth. And Scout was the brand. So with all the IP and brand stuff that VW acquired with International, they also got Scout. I can't remember the exact episode. I think we discussed this. This was way before Scout was even announced. I said, mark my words, Volkswagen's going to do something with Scout.
I remember that.
International, and nobody at the time was even discussing it. And I was like, something's going to happen. And ta-da, it did. So I think the original plan with Scout was...
You're welcome, Volkswagen. You're welcome.
Yes. Was they were going to make Scout an EV brand. But I guess somewhere along the way, they said, well, the 4x4 market traditionally has been kind of old school, kind of skeptical of new technologies, and they kind of maybe need a little bit of a crutch to get over their biases and stuff. So they said, okay, so we're going to do a range extended model, in addition to the battery model. And when they announced it for pre-orders, I guess something like 3/4 of the pre-orders have been for the EREV, and like very, very little interest in the pure EV model. So the news now is they may, at least for the time being, drop the EV model completely, or postpone it and just focus mainly on the EREV, which, I mean, if their objective is to sell vehicles and do it with,
I'm going to say, yes, their objective is to sell vehicles. Go out on a
maybe
limb.
this isn't the worst strategy, because, they don't, I mean, as we kind of saw with the Cybertruck, and for a while with the Lightning, even though I think the supply and demand's kind of normalized a little bit, is they way overproduced, kind of over anticipating demand, and had all this inventory they were sitting on, which is, I'd say, is still kind of the case with the Cybertruck. But dealers don't want a bunch of unsold inventory. They want the cars to come in, they want to sell them, get them off the lots. So I don't know. I don't think this is maybe the worst strategy, at least in the near term. So
I do think it's the right move, and I think that we've talked a lot about, I mean, we don't use the term first move advantage, but like where Ford has got its Lightning, you got Rivian with the R1T, and then the Cybertruck, and the Silverado was coming out, and then there was Dodge. It was just kind of like plunking away in the back.
Us too.
Yeah, and we were like, is it too late for them? And I think that they're going to financially be better off than a lot of other companies that have had to be those martyrs at the front that discovered what we've been saying from day one, which is electric trucks. There's a market, but it's not the mass market.
Yeah.
There's, like, for Rivian R1T stuff, there's a lifestyle that's out there, and kind of with the Cybertruck. There's a lifestyle that goes with it. There's a venture lifestyle. And for that, electric trucks are great. You throw your surfboard in the
Lightning,
back,
I'd say, like casual weekend warriors, perfect for that.
Yeah. Now, Ford's advantage was they have the Lightning, they've got their hybrid, and they've got straight up gas. So you have a choice there. With the others, Rivian's kind of, you're all in. Cybertruck, you're all in. But I think right now, at least, the market is, if you want a truck, you probably want more utility with it than what electric can provide, because you already are only getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour out of the battery pack. And as soon as you tow anything, you're down to 1, maybe 1.2 if you're lucky. You need the gasoline engine. You need like an EREV or a plug-in hybrid version. And Dodge, that's exactly, they've managed to turn tail on it before they got too invested. And Volkswagen is kind of similar. They're turning before they get too invested and not having to re-engineer.
What's kind of ironic about that is Ram, like almost kind of overnight, quite possibly could have the first mover advantage with having an EREV. They were kind of coming from behind with the battery.
By being last to market, they will be first to market with the right product.
No, I think soon you will see Ford and GM do an EREV, either a PHEV or an EREV version of the Silverado and F-150. But I think,
which is what I was saying when I tested the original EcoBoost, was that they needed to have
the power boost,
or the power boost. Yeah, they needed to have a plug-in.
Yeah. So I think those are coming, but ironically, Ram may beat everyone else to market with that. So we'll see.
Long live Stellantis.
Yes, we hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So this is, speaking of GM.
Speaking of big vehicles that are electric powered, that maybe would have
don't
been
have so bright a future.
Yes. Oh,
no pun intended.
Yeah.
So BrightDrop. So BrightDrop has had an interesting history. It went from a standalone brand to being folded into Chevy, and now it
Folded
looks like
into
non-existent.
Folded into the trash can.
So, yeah. So yeah, the latest announcement, GM, they're discontinuing BrightDrop.
Why?
I think low sales. Also, I don't know how much of a factor this was. You know, the whole tariff situation and Trump's war of words with Canada. So, BrightDrop was made in Canada, and so I don't know in terms of like domestic content and USMCA, all that. I don't know if that was a factor, but certainly I think the $7,500 credit disappearing was a factor. Plus, even with the massive discounts, these things were still expensive. I think the list prices on them was like 80 or 90 grand. Some dealers were offering like 20,000 off, but this still isn't like just a casual purchase. Never mind the fact they're massive. So unless you need massive cargo capacity, huge vehicle, kind of a limited market. So anyway,
you're not really
happening.
getting the plumber sale. You're not getting the electrician sale
No.
on these, which you would get with Rivian's MDV, whatever, their Amazon van.
Yeah.
You can get those sales from the Ford what is that, Econoline? I don't even remember. Transit. That EV, you're going to get potential plumber sales, electrician sales, mobile, whatever, handyman. Same thing with the Mercedes. The BrightDrop's massive.
Yeah, it's huge.
And the only ones that I've seen, almost all
FedEx
of the FedExes are in my neighborhood are BrightDrops and have been for a while. But that's it. I've never seen one that's not a FedEx. And there's fleets of them in my city.
So I think the opportunity in this is probably for Rivian, because they have the next closest vehicle to this kind of form factor. So they potentially could scoop up a lot of the sales of companies that were buying the BrightDrop, could end up going with the Rivian van.
Possibly. Didn't Canoe have a concept of this? Let's bring Canoe back.
Well, yeah. I don't think they're coming back. But anyway, so yeah, kind of a little disappointing. I thought it had potential, but not enough.
It was only going to be fleet sales, maybe the underpinnings for RVs, and it's a market, but I don't know if it's a market that is going to sustain.
Oh gosh, I can't even remember the name of the company, but they did like a full-fledged RV concept based on the BrightDrop. It'll be interesting to see if they completely fold or if they end up kind of pivoting to using the Rivian chassis for an RV. I don't know. Or they start doing like the e-Transit or the Sprinter, the EV Sprinter. I don't know.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on RVs and where that needs to go. And I think they definitely fall into, long story short, if we do an episode on it, where my opinion will be, is it right now it's PHEVs or EREVs for if you're going to do like a
anything
camping
bigger
van
or heavier. Yeah. Large trucks, vans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on to something a little smaller.
That was depressing.
So Porsche Macan EV. And this is not unexpected. Porsche kind of does this with all of their models. Whenever they come out with a new model, they kind of slow drip the different variants.
Yeah, they come out with like 15 different versions of everything. So I saw this announcement and was like, all right, like Porsche doing Porsche stuff.
Porsche being
So they've got the Macan EV GTS.
Yeah, so this is kind of the in-betweener. This is between the Turbo, which is the top of the line, and the 4S, which is kind of a step below. So
if you're a Porsche person, I'm sure this makes sense.
Yes.
But the casual car guy, I can't keep track of this stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, if you like fast, kind of mid-size-ish DVs, 563 horse, 704 pound-feet with overboost function. If not, it has only 509 horsepower.
Yeah.
0 to 60, 3.6 seconds, top speed 155. 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, 270 kilowatt max charging power, 10 to 80 in 21 minutes under ideal conditions. But, you know, I'm willing to cut a little slack because 100 kilowatt hours is a pretty good sized battery. If it was only 60 or 70 and it was 20 minutes, I'd say that's not great. But for a battery of that size, that's decent charging. Optional rear wheel steering, which kind of surprised me because they're not particularly huge. So I don't know if that's more for just handling more than like parking lot, you know, maneuverability. But anyway,
I don't know what's going on with carry on.
For the low price of $103,000.
Now you're buying a Porsche, so you're going to pay a bit of a premium. But isn't this double what a Model Y with similar specs would cost?
For the non-performance, yes, this is about double.
And for the performance, is like
performance Model Y, I think,
more
is like 64. I want to say. So you're still paying almost 40 grand.
So you're paying the Porsche tax to have that, and I say that as somebody that's now been shopping for a Porsche this year. That may or may not happen, but
not a new one.
No, not a new one. One that's like very used price.
Yeah.
But so there is a price that you have to pay to have a Porsche. And maybe people will pay this. I don't know. To talk about the rear steer, maybe that's just an option that they're throwing on there that it's something that other things don't have.
I get it in large, like the Silverado EV, the Cybertruck, vehicles of that size. It does have a real world advantage. For smaller vehicles, I don't know. So I'm going to date myself. You might remember this. So speaking of small cars with four-wheel steering, do you remember the Prelude back in the day?
Oh yeah, the
like the late 80s, early 90s Prelude.
Yeah.
But what was cool about that was it's fully mechanical.
Yeah.
And you could see it just barely kind of, and the advantage, because, you know, Prelude's a small car. So the main advantage for that was handling. It wasn't so much maneuverability. But so, you know, I mean, maybe that's a thing. But
technically, and I never really understood how it worked, my RX-7, I've got a second gen RX-7, that had rear steer.
Yeah, but if memory serves me correctly, it was more passive, where it depended on like the lean angle would like change the suspension geometry. So. Yeah,
and I don't know exactly what it did or how it did it, because literally the first thing I did was I dropped the subframes off the car, replaced everything with better bushings, and eliminated the rear steer. But rear steer is something that's been around for a while. I mean, they had it in... some SUVs had them in the early 2000s, late 90s, maybe. The
GM Quadristeer. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. So they've come and gone, and they always break. They're always a pain. They always break. And I see Cybertrucks all the time, and they'll round the corner, and you watch the back tires move and everything. And that's neat, and then it gets them into parking spaces. I'm just hoping that technology's better now than it was 25 years ago when they tried this before, because everything that had rear steer before broke. And
except for the Prelude, I don't remember them especially having any problems.
I don't know if they sold enough of those.
Well, yeah, it was a pretty rare model.
Yeah, it was the SH or whatever the model was. It was like the super handling model, whatever it was. I don't think that those are the mass numbers.
No.
But it does serve a good purpose, because I've got a Yukon and I've got an F-250, and that goes into like wheelbase and steering angle. But the F-250 is not a daily drivable thing. And
like a school bus.
Yes, and it's because of the turning radius on the thing. It's like 50-something feet to make a turn. It's massive. Rear steer would really help on something like that.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably some intersections you just go around the block rather than trying to make a U-turn.
You can't do a U-turn. You simply cannot do a U-turn. If there are 3 lanes and a hard shoulder, yes, you can do the U-turn.
2-lane, forget it.
2-lane, there's no way. You got to go over a curb, or you're doing a 3-point turn. It's absolutely ridiculous. That you can't daily drive these F-250s. But the Yukon, it can. And you drive it like...
I want to say GM did make a Quadristeer Suburban.
I don't know why they... Yeah, and then it probably broke. All right. Okay, so Germany. Speaking of Germany,
Yes.
did they get rid of their EV subsidy? You're saying that they are reviving it.
Well, I guess the old one was just very broad. It was very, basically, it didn't discriminate based on, you know, origin, so to speak.
Okay.
So it would apply to like Chinese EVs, like whatever from wherever.
Yeah.
So of course everyone is afraid of, you know, the Chinese threat. So they're they're proposing reintroducing it, but only applying it to German or EU built models.
So
So
narrowing the focus.
yeah, so 4,000 euro credit, only applicable to vehicles 45,000 euros or below. Only BEVs, not PHEVs or EREVs. So kind of a little more targeted. I'm guessing the German auto lobby had something to do with this because they were, I don't know if you want to say tricked or bamboozled, but a few years ago they when everyone saw Tesla as this like huge imminent threat that was going to take over the world, they really doubled down into EV R&D. So they invested billions and billions of dollars, euros, whatever, the EV development. And now sales are kind of cooling off. You know, inventories are starting to stack up. There's more demand for ICE. And they're like, well, what are we going to do with all these? We need to kind of prime the pump a little bit. So I think that's probably has something to do with it. I don't know.
Sure. Why not?
That's all I have to say. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, there was a moment in time where everybody. I hate this. I hate this just in general in the business that I'm in, like with everything. I hate chasing shiny new things. And
Mm-hmm.
you see something that's doing well, and you go, "Ooh, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
drop what we're doing, and let's do this other thing." Because obviously they're winning, and we don't know how they're winning. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
any of those details. And in this case, it was Tesla, and Tesla's taken over the world. They didn't know
Until
how
they weren't.
scalable it was. They didn't know the profit margins that there were. They didn't know how difficult batteries were going to be to produce. They didn't understand completely that whole thing. Then they didn't know that tariffs were coming down the pike with like craziness that's been happening. They didn't know any of this stuff, but they still went all in
Mm-hmm.
and they picked a direction. And I don't know. I hate changing, and I say this co-hosting a EV podcast. Don't ever chase the shiny new thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything should go with moderation and you take the steps into it. And that's the only way that you don't end up with cratering an industry
Mm-hmm.
and leaving things with a bad taste in your mouth. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's ease up to full EV embracement, if that's a word. Let's ease into this, not say everybody's got to be EV by 2030, which is what
If I
happened.
if I didn't know better, I'd say you're channeling Akio Toyota, but
Uh, Possibly. It just seems like you need a very measured approach to an entire shift in an industry that
yeah,
affects almost every country in the world.
yeah.
Like, let's be measured about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're kind of on this like rebound, like bouncing back and forth. Well, we had all these incentives. Everybody produced this. Now they're not selling. Now we've got to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So getting back to something a little more interesting / exciting, a little more. If you're an enthusiast, I think you'll maybe geek out on this a little bit. So Jason Fensky, Engineering Explained, one of my favorite channels. I just love how he breaks stuff down. So he did a video comparing the Yang Wang U9 Extreme, the recent top speed record holder, I guess. And he compared it to a Corvette ZR1 and also 911 GT3 RS. So electric versus two. I don't know if I'd say total complete pinnacle, but some of the highest performance ICE sports cars you can buy. So he noted that while it did a sub 7-minute lap time, that the ZR1 did a little bit quicker lap time than
That the Yang Wang did, the electric
the
vehicle.
Yang Wang did.
Okay.
With about 1/3 the power.
So the ZR1 with a third of the power did about the same lap time.
A little
the
quicker,
Yang Wang.
actually.
A little quicker. Okay.
And the 911 GT3 RS did it even quicker than the ZR1 with about half the horsepower of the ZR1.
Uh-huh.
So he broke it down, and the TLDR on it is, yes, the Yang Wang has very impressive peak power output, but it can't sustain it. Whereas the ZR1 and the Porsche, it can sustain that max power level for longer. Whereas I guess with the Yang Wang, first of all, it has, by most reports, has a actually pretty small battery considering the amount of power it has. It only has an 80 kilowatt hour battery and 3,000 horsepower. So if you're going foot to the floor, I think he said something like it would basically deplete its battery in like 2 minutes. if you were like foot to the floor all the way around. So,
which sounds bad, but remember there was a video of somebody in like, it was like a Hellcat or something like that. And they were on the Nürburgring, or not,
you could physically see the gas.
You could watch the gas gauge moving. Like you didn't have much, like it probably wasn't 2 minutes,
Well,
but it was...
but I guess the difference is with gas engines, you can basically maintain max power as long as you have the fuel.
Yes.
When you're out of gas, you're out of gas.
Yep.
But they can maintain max power for longer. And the other thing he mentioned is the Yang Wang is probably traction limited. He did all these mathematical calculations and stuff. And basically, you can't apply all 3,000 horsepower all at once, all the way around the ring. So it's very much a balance of, power on, braking, handling, traction limitations, battery limitations. So it's like, yes, it can set these records, but it's I guess the operational parameters in which it sets these is pretty limited. So it was kind of interesting. If you're a total performance nerd, it's worth a watch. It's very interesting, all the intricacies and nuances that he went into about this. So.
I'm sure he mentions this. I don't remember if you did because I was busy Googling stuff. But the Yang Wang weighs a lot.
Yeah, didn't we decide it's like around 5,000?
So I just Googled it, and the Googles says, and they're pulling from, I don't know where they're pulling from, but they say it weighs 5,467 pounds. The ZR1 weighs 3,560, so 2,000 pounds less. And the GT3, did you say RS? Because that's what I looked up.
GT3 RS, yeah.
Is 3268, so another 300 pounds lighter than the Corvette. Part of what you can get with EVs is you can brute force everything. You can put in so much power and then stuff it with so much tire that you can brute force a record. And we get that with, in motorsports, something that is sustained, motorsport that is sustained for less time. So you get something like drag racing or autocross. And you take an electric vehicle and they will really excel at that because you're only going for, in drag racing, 9 seconds. In autocross, a long one would be 60 seconds. But you put it out on the track and you try to do a 7-minute Nürburgring lap and you now, the weight catches up to you and you overheat the brakes, you overheat the tires, you're overheating, I'm sure, suspension components. Shocks can only take so much before they start overheating. And it begins to fall apart. It's a house of cards in the performance world that will crumble when you try to sustain the performance for extended periods of time. I'll need to watch his video because I'm sure that he goes into all of this. But by and large, that's what I've noticed is just the Model 3 performance is great. But if you want to do that performance for a longer period of time, a 20-minute, a 30-minute track session, it will fall on its face more. It may still be going really, really, really fast. But its potential at the end is not what it was at the beginning. It's more of a time attack car than it is an endurance car. Even if you got rid of the charging issues, even if you did like a battery swap in, 2 minutes or whatever, and you could get around that, you've still got this weight issue that will just compound. And then you'll start breaking things once you go to longer and longer events, because that weight is going to abuse everything that much more.
So I guess the question with this is it kind of an exercise in futility trying to keep setting these like power or whatever records with EVs? I mean, everyone thought it was insane when the Plaid came out with 1,000 horsepower. Then the Sapphire came out with 1,200. Then, these, the Xiaomi, SU7 whiz bang, whatever it is. I think that was like 1,500.
Yeah. It's
like, for what? It's like, okay, so you get to 0 to 60 in like 1.9 or woo, it's like, at what point is it like, this is silly? It doesn't matter anymore. I mean, are we there?
Oh, we're long there. It really
way past that.
Yeah, the acceleration doesn't matter.
Like you said, it's a party trick.
Yeah, everything is fast enough now. Almost every gas-powered car is fast enough now. It's not necessary. They need to work on. We went through this the other week, didn't we? That they need to work more on
charging speed,
charging infrastructure. Put the money into that. We've already done this speed thing. And at the same time, Yang Wang comes out with their U9 Extreme. You've got Rimats with their Navara, whatever they end up making next after that. You've got these super duper cars. That's fine. Let them do that. Let Lamborghini and Ferrari do their thing. But mass market, we don't need this speed.
I'm just going to say it. I still think the ideal, and some people would say, well, why do you even focus on that? The ideal acceleration time for mass market cars, I would say, is between 5 and 7 seconds. 5 seconds on the quicker end, 7 seconds for mass market. 5 seconds 0 to 60 is legit pretty impressive, especially if you're used to like, a Corolla. Well, except for like the GR, but just your kind of a mainstream car, especially if you get into an EV with the torque delivery. 5 seconds is like, wow, this thing is quick. And even 7 seconds is like, wow, this thing's pretty peppy. So to me, that's kind of the golden mean, so to speak, I feel.
It lets you merge on the freeway. And that's legitimately all you need to do is merge onto a freeway.
And to me, like, I'd say the 5-6 second range on a test drive is enough to impress most people. Now, granted, if you're coming from a Plaid or, a ZR1 or whatever, you're like, yawn, this is lame. But I'd say most people would say, 5 to 6.5 second range. Ooh, that's pretty quick. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, I'm not saying stop making the Plaids or Sapphires or Naveras or Yang Wangs. I mean, sure, if you're willing to pay the price, go for it. But that's not what the market needs right now.
Yeah.
So
there's other places to put that money, time, development. And if you can, say, okay, 5.5 seconds is what our EVs are going to do, 0 to 60 time, and then work in the efficiency of production on that and get the prices down. I'd much prefer a $25,000 or $30,000 EV that does 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds than have to pay.
Does it 1 and 2?
Yeah,
for 100,000.
Yeah, yeah. All right, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think. Well, there was one more thing. You're like, oh, we have to talk about this. Do we want to? Do you?
Save it for another episode.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep you hanging.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Everything we talked about, show notes in the show. How do I say it? The show notes are embedded somewhere in the show notes. Whatever. Links in the show notes. I knew that I'd come up with the right word. You just got to speak enough, and eventually the right words come out of your mouth. You can find us on any podcast player, Also, youtube.com/@thewhatcar. I don't ever promote this, but we still have the whatcar.com/store if you would like to buy any merchandise. I don't really advertise it because with tariffs, I don't actually think we're making money. I think we're losing money on it, and I've been meaning to shut that down, which is why I stopped talking about it. But if you want to make us go broke, go buy a shirt. We're on all the social medias. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you like and follow us. Share us. On your social media, share something, whether it's our shorts or make a comment, whatever. I don't know how the internet works. And
we're getting more comments, which we may get into in future episodes.
Yes. And thewhatcar.com/advertise. Big companies like Yang Wang, go and throw us your Chinese dollars, and we will say how great a 5,500-pound supercar is.
All right.
Talk to you next week.